You a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping and reacting to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, From Nowhere to Counter-Earth and Everywhere in Between. That's right, we both recently just saw this movie. We were actually in the same theater. I don't think that's ever happened, especially for one of these reactions at least.
It has not when I say we, podcast time.
Exactly, yeah. When I say we, who am I talking about? I'm talking about myself, Mike Gibson, and my co-host, Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Cosmo, the astronaut dog. The cosmonaut.
Yeah, she is.
And
what a good dog she is.
She is officially a good dog. So if you if you have not seen or have not heard or don't want to be spoiled on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, why are you listening? Turn it off now.
Get out of here.
And we'll talk to you in our next episode, which if you would like to view, you can like, subscribe, and follow us on any social media.
Yeah.
And leave us a review in your podcatcher of choice because, well, that would help us.
Yes. Real quick, I'll give a quick non-spoiler review of this movie. I thought it was great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and there's other thoughts too. But
okay. Yes.
So yes, and
yes, and asterisks is for Steve. I thought it was pretty much straight up great. No asteries. That's a plural asterisk, right?
Asterisks. Yeah.
Asteries.
My astericized thoughts would be more on the direction of the MCU as a whole and more esoteric things. The movie itself, I thought, nailed it.
Okay, well then, that's our non-spoiler review. Get out of here if you don't want any spoilers, because we're about to start spoiling the movie right now. All right. I haven't liked a Marvel movie this much in a really long time, Steve.
Yeah.
A really long time. Like possibly, I think at least since Avengers Endgame. I don't think I've liked any Marvel anything that has come out. Maybe Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. There hasn't been a feature-length film that I've liked this much. And that's including my reaction coming out of No Way Home.
Yeah, which you loved. Yeah.
Well, and again, that one, anyone who hasn't heard, it's like, loved it initially. The rewatch or more thought about it was like, oh, that was just a nostalgia trip.
Seeing the cracks. Yeah. I was like emotionally moved by this movie. I thought it looked great. I thought the action was incredible. I thought it was very well shot, very well directed, very well conceived, as we'll get into later. I laughed out loud. I cried. I thought it was just excellent. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it hit you.
And that hasn't happened for me in a Marvel movie since Endgame. So, I mean, I forgot that Marvel, like, this is just like, oh, this is why I used to really just love all of these movies before I started getting sick of, or, before they started all feeling the same. Like, this one didn't feel the same.
Right.
And you could tell that there was some real craft behind it, and it was not beholden to 1,000 other storylines because it just took place in space like the first two. It's part of the reason why I like the first two so much, that they're not part of like the Avengers. And, when they're in Infinity War and Endgame, those are great too. They work very well with those characters, but it's so much easier to conclude a trilogy when you don't have the baggage of 30 other movies to have to like weave in and out of, or conflate with or whatever. So
yeah, it was a rockin', rollin' good time. I mean, the soundtrack was, I don't know how many times I was sitting there like tapping along with the soundtrack, as you do with any James Gunn film, but like right from the bat, that acoustic version of Creep by Radiohead with Rocket singing along was just like it set the tone for the whole thing. Yeah. And I didn't think that was going to be how it kicked off or what I was going to feel as soon as the movie opened, but it worked great and it set the stage.
It really did, because as we had heard, and as Steve and I can confirm, this movie is centered on Rocket Raccoon, and his backstory. It certainly has plenty for the other characters to do, and they all certainly get moments to shine in their own ways. But Rocket is kind of the backbone of this story, and setting it up with a kind of somber song, and you're just kind of watching Rocket listen to the song and humming along with it or walking along while he's hearing it. Like,
Oh yeah.
he's relating to these words. I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. Like, he's like, you really you completely understand like kind of where he is and what he's thinking about.
Well, and even the verses, like when you were here before, I couldn't look you in the eye. Like, the whole everything about the song was like in my brain, because I know the song like lyrically as well as I do. I'm just like, holy hell, this is fitting too perfectly, and you can see why he's in that state that he is when he's listening to it.
Yeah. And also I thought it was I mean, I don't remember specifically lines of Rocket saying this, but he seemed to never really show an interest in Quill's music at all, whether it be like not wanting to dance or not caring about, you know, songs or whatever. But like the fact that he is at a point where he is feeling vulnerable enough to be affected by songs kind of like shows us some growth for his character, and certainly sets us up for where his character is going to go in the film. And it was great. I thought all the Rocket stuff was really incredible. And I know there was a lot of people that thought, I mean, okay, we're in spoiler territory, so it's fine. I hesitated because I wasn't sure. I was like, should I say this? I was like, nah, it's spoiler. We're talking full spoiler. So, a lot of people thought Rocket was going to die in this movie based on how James Gunn was talking about it. We had talked about it. I really thought Drax was going to die. We talked about that a lot too. He did not. Yep. Nobody died. Main characters died in this movie. Classic MCU.
Right.
So can't really be shocked.
The group did get disbanded, but nobody died.
Yes. And there was a moment.
No, let me rephrase that. A lot of people died. None of the Guardians died.
None of the main characters died. Yes. Main hero characters died. There was a moment in the movie, I don't really remember when it was, but it was like a little bit into the third act, and I can't remember what happened or why, but I was like, oh wait, nobody's gonna die. Like, there's not.
I think it was when Rocket came back, and there was something just after that. Something just after that happened where I think Drax got shot twice, and he just stood right back up, and it was like,
yeah.
Okay, they're all coming out of this one alive.
Yeah. I was like, they're not. They haven't threaded anything enough to build up to any character dying, unless it was going to be like just out of nowhere, like they get hit by a bus and they're like without any like setup or pathos at all. Like that could, but I was like, I don't think James Gunn is the kind of writer director to do that, so I don't think any of these characters are going to die. And then I was right. And Rocket, kind of early on in the movie, when you realize that the first half of the movie's plot is going to be about saving Rocket's life. He's on life support for like the first half of the movie.
Right.
I was like, they're not going to spend half this movie saving Rocket's life only for him to die. So Rocket's definitely not going to die. I knew that earlier.
Weirdly, though, they actually did get me right at the scene.
Like, when he was
when he was coming
in heaven or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, they actually are going to do it.
Yeah.
Like there was a minute where, because I was in the same boat where I'm like, oh, he's gonna be fine. He'll be fine. I'm like, whoa, maybe not. Okay, we're back to normal.
Yeah, well, I kind of thought that for a second too, and I was like,
yeah,
I don't think they'd take one of the main characters of this franchise and just have them on life support for the entire movie, and then they just die. Like, I don't think they would do that.
No, in my brain, I was already going through like, all right, they're actually going to send him off like they did, and that's going to break Quill, and they're going to beat the High Evolutionary or do whatever, but it's going to cost them the Guardians. You know what I mean? Like, it was going to be this bittersweet ending of, they saved everything, but they're all despondent and broken.
Yeah. I did not expect Rocket's friends to die. That was very sad and horrible.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe I knew they weren't all going to escape together. I thought Rocket was going to be the only one to escape, and the thing would be that he has always felt guilty that he was the one that got out, and the other three are still there. And I thought he was eventually going to go back, and they would still be there. But no.
Spoiler alert, they were not.
Spoiler alert, they died.
Very gruesome deaths too.
Yeah, just blatantly shot. But yeah, so the whole Rocket stuff was great and heartbreaking, and like that's clearly when people were talking about how it's sad or like devastating. Like clearly that's what they were talking about. Like we said, I think everyone gets time to shine in this movie. I thought this was some of the best acting I've ever seen Chris Pratt do. I think, ever, because he was more like, it's still funny. Like this movie's really funny, but Chris Pratt specifically was like more of a serious tone to his character, I guess, because
like a somber tone.
Yeah, because of what he's dealing with. They touch on him being kind of an alcoholic a little bit in the beginning, which I thought was interesting.
Kind of.
Well, yeah,
Nebula clearly literally has to carry him.
Yeah. And I don't know. So I think he was acting from a bit of a darker place because of the natural, his character's storyline makes sense for him to do so, and I think he really crushed it. Karen Gillan was great as Nebula. A lot of stuff for her to do. I mean, Zoe Saldana is an incredible actress in everything that she does, but it was cool to see her playing straight up take no bullshit Gamora again.
Right.
And
more of like traditional Gamora in the comics.
Yeah.
Of just ultra badass. Yeah.
And I did not think that they would rekindle their romance, Gamora and Quill, and I'm glad that they didn't, because it would have just been like too rushed.
Yeah.
I think for them to do that. There's not enough time.
I am glad that she came around a little bit and softened up, like, to the Guardians.
Yes. And I thought at least that would happen.
Yeah.
That would make sense. Yeah, she's not going to be like a complete, asshole towards the rest of the crew for all time. Dave Bautista had some great stuff as Drax. The one that plays Mantis.
Palm Clementif.
Yep, Palm Clementif. She was great. Mantis had a lot of cool stuff to do. And again, I really like the design of this movie. I guess like I guess we're kind of jumping all over, but this is the next thing that I thought of. Like, I feel like we've seen so many space movies, like so many Star Wars movies, or so many Star Trek movies, like anything else.
We're going to be talking about Dune in the next.
We're talking about Dune, where like Alien, whatever. Like, there's so many different like sagas or like space epics. It's hard to find. A lot of it stuff you feel like you've seen it before, but like there's a lot of cool stuff in this that I had never thought of before. Like, they go to like a space station that's like made of organic flesh, which is super gross, but also I've never seen anything like that before. And like
the first time that popped on the screen, I literally was laughing. I was
like,
what the hell did James Gunn's brain come up with here?
Yeah. And like all the, like normally in so many sci-fi things to work, you have to like put your hand on a panel and there's like a green line that scans your hand and then whatever, like, and these guys, they're just putting their hands in like puddles of goo to like work machinery and stuff. Like, I've never seen that before. A little like hovering microphone that Jennifer Holland is like pushing around when she like needs it and stuff. Like, that's super cool stuff. Like, I've never seen that in a sci-fi movie before. So very
also
inventive.
Shout out to Nathan Fillion for being absolutely hilarious as the captain of the guard there.
Yeah, he was hilarious. He was super funny.
Which, James Gunn movie, gotta have Nathan Fillion in it.
Yeah, he's been in a lot. He's done like a voice. He did a voice in the first one, right? He wasn't like, I don't think he's been fully in character in either of the Guardians movies, but he's been in like background photos or a voice at least.
Yep.
But yeah, it was cool to see. I feel like I haven't seen him in anything in a long time, so it was cool to see him at all.
Yeah.
Steve, what did you think of Adam Warlock in this movie? Big MCU debut of Adam Warlock.
That was probably one of my only disappointments, just from a character and broader character standpoint.
When I was watching it, I was like, I bet Steve doesn't like this.
In all honesty, like thinking about what was like what the character was and how they did it in the movie, it was funny, it was fitting, but at the same time, it was like, I don't know. It just, I really don't even know how to put words to it. It was just a weird take on it that seemed like it seemed to work, and it may work moving forward, but it was just like this infantile take on it. And
I mean, they set up the fact that he was still like a child, had the mind of a child basically, so he's not really in full control, or not working with like full knowledge of why or what he's doing, which definitely worked for comedy, and it certainly worked for the movie. I can see, like I said, I didn't think you would love it. Fans of Adam Warlock in the books not loving it because he's kind of very stoic, powerful, very in control character, at least as far as I know him. But I do think that starting him like this gives him a place to go in future films, however they feel like utilizing him in future films, because I feel like if you just give him straight up, I am the stoic, all-powerful, all-knowing, Adam Warlock, that gets boring after like one appearance. Like, okay, well then, if he is that already, he's not going to grow in the following movie or anything.
Well, and they even the Sovereign even said that they took him out of the cocoon too early, and
so he's so I feel like he will get there, by whatever Secret Wars or whatever he'll be.
Yeah, wherever they throw him in.
Yeah. But speaking of adversaries in this movie, what's that guy's name? Chikuti Iwuji.
Yeah.
Played the High Evolutionary. Holy shit.
Oh my God, that was great.
I thought he was incredible.
That was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
So good. Just like top tier acting, one, very intense, very scary, and just so razor focused on what he wants to do, his objectives, like literally a nothing is going to stand in my way type of villain, written and acted in a way that I 100% believed everything that he was doing made sense for his character, and that literally he was not going to let anything stop him until it was beyond his control of being stopped. Like, he's letting his ship blow up. He doesn't care. He's killing the people that work on his ship. He doesn't care. All he is after is this one thing or this one objective, and it does not matter what he sacrifices. At all.
Well, I mean, to the point where his own staff mutinies on him.
Yeah,
and he just blows them up. Exactly. Like, no hesitation. He's just like, all right, boom, gone.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. Wild. I also loved. In general, this is the closest Marvel movie to an R rating that we've ever had.
Yeah, between
they're pushing
with the actual F-bomb and the whatever happened, like when they show Rocket decimating the High Evolutionary's face, and then why he had Chikuti Iwuji's like face stretched over his face.
Yes, that's what I was about to bring up when I jumped to the R-rated comment, because when Rocket attacks him, you see him scratching his face like crazy, but you don't see the result of it because we're just with Rocket, which is, again, emotionally devastating. And then when I saw that, I was like, okay, well then how does he have the face that's stretched over? Like, is he like a cyborg and that's just like a copy of his original face? Like the design of the High Evolutionary with the face stretched out is creepy as hell. Like, as soon as you get close enough to realize that's what it is, you're like, oh, that's like stretched skin over some kind of metal exoskeleton. I was just like, is he a robot? And I saw in the flashback, Rocket scratched his face. I was like, well then how does he have a face? Like, where did that face come from? Clearly it's a copy. And then when you do see him without the face, it is jarring and disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And just really impactful. Like it works. It's such a cool effect. It looks amazing. I don't know if it's computer generated or if it's like
some sort of practical something.
Some sort of practical puppetry or something that they're using to make that mouth move, but it looked really good and was terrifying. So like that, like plus the MCU's first F-bomb, plus some of the other language. There's like some, they drop some shits and some, you sick son of a bitch, I think they say a couple times too. So like there's pretty strong language in this movie. And it's very violent. Like
what were they gonna say no to James Gunn on his way out?
I know. Yeah, especially like it's the third. He's ending his trilogy. This is like a big movie for them. Big movie for them. Yeah. So there's a little bit of extra. It was it was more intense all over. It was more intense emotionally. It was more intense visually.
Yeah.
And just tonally, I think it was more intense.
Yeah. And it's it's full George Lucas, faster and more intense.
Yeah. Anything else stick out for you as far as what you liked about this or didn't like? Any other?
No, I was kind of happy. Like in the comics, it's not like the High Evolutionary has. It's not like that's where Rocket's backstory is or anything.
Right. Yeah.
And the way it worked and the way they tied it in, I think worked great.
Yeah.
Like it was fully believable. And that's one of those where they can take it from the comics, and I'm still quite happy with how it ended up. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I got very emotional with Nebula's line to Drax about you weren't born to be a destroyer, you were born to be a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Got me. And I called this because they forecasted it earlier in the movie, or foreshadowed it early in the movie. I leaned to my wife and said, it's going to end with Peter going back to Earth to see his grandfather.
Yeah, as soon as they said something about what you haven't even gone back to see your grandfather, I'm like, well, that's where he's going.
Yeah. And then it was that plus then when Gamora found the picture of them, I was like, oh, he's gonna go back there. And then she gave it to him. I'm like, oh yeah, no, okay, this is definitely gonna happen. But like the reunion of Peter and his grandpa got me big time. That was like, I was crying when that happened for sure. That was great. It was a great way to end it, I thought.
So that was actually the second post-credit scene.
Not the reunion. The reunion was in the movie.
Oh
proper.
Yeah, the post-credit scene was them at the coffee table.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great. I liked it a lot. I thought there was one other thing I was gonna say about it, and I don't remember what it is now. It felt, I guess it didn't feel too long. I'm not sure what you could have cut out of it. It was 2.5 hours long.
Not sure it felt long but tight.
Yeah.
There wasn't any real there wasn't any real fluff in there.
Like you would have had to cut out like an action beat or something.
Right. And all of them seemed pretty well cut and well choreographed.
Yeah.
And
there was one like that hallway fight scene that looked like it was all one shot, and I'm sure it was computerized to make it look like it was all one shot. Because there's a lot of effects going on, and that was like a really cool fight. But it was almost like too much for me. I was just like, okay, I get it. This is a cool, supposed to be the badass, slaughter fight or whatever, and it is. But I'm like, it's a little going on a little too long. Let's keep moving this movie forward. And also, I saw online somebody point out that they make a big deal out of saving all of the other animals that have been experimented on, except for these animals that have been experimented on. These ones, we're just going to murder all of those. And like, yes, it's because they're made to be the quote unquote evil ones, and they are the ones attacking the Guardians. So they're like, they kind of have to fight them. But still, it's a little like, okay, so you're saving the cute ones and you're just going to murder the ugly ones. Okay,
yes.
I get that. Yeah. I mean, clearly this movie is like an allegory for like corporate animal abuse, right? I mean, that's kind of how I read it, and I loved it.
I mean, really cool. they literally said that.
Yeah. I really like the.
Oh no, I'm also thinking of. I just got done watching League of Super Pets, which. Is in the same vein.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right.
They also literally say it.
Yeah. I liked Groot in this movie a lot. He was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Changing his size, getting just down to a head at one point in the beginning, I thought was cool.
Groot go kaiju.
Yeah, full kaiju. And the scene where he had the guns hidden inside him, I figured that's what he was doing.
When you know what to do with this.
I was like, yeah, that was really cool. And a super fun scene where they steal that guy and just jump out of the window that Shivs is taking off. That was awesome. Groot sprouts wings, which makes, I believe that.
Yeah, sure, why not?
What did you think about Groot saying, "I love you guys" at the end of the movie?
So the way I took that was that we finally understood him, because it was right after Gamora finally understood him.
Yes, that's what I felt too. That's what I thought too. I loved it. It didn't dawn on me until I woke up today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wait, that was we can understand him now. That's what it is. And
it took me a minute too, and that it came to me I think sometime last night or this morning. I was just like, oh yeah, that's why he said that.
Because it's the last thing that we hear him say too. Like there's no other "I am Groots" even in the post credit scene or whatever. So I thought that was awesome.
Yep,
that was great. So yeah, it looks like Rocket is going to continue on as captain, which is great and emotional and wonderful. Some of them disband. Nebula goes off to, oh no, Nebula's still there, isn't she? Or no?
No,
she goes away.
She and Drax are running nowhere, I think.
Oh yeah, they're staying to run nowhere and look after the kids. That's right.
Yep.
Peter's going home. Mantis is going to find herself.
Yep.
So it's Rocket and Groot and Kraglin and Adam Warlock.
Yep. And
was there someone else?
Yes, there was. So this is the first post-credit scene.
Yes.
Right? The little girl that they had broken out of the High Evolutionaries prison. Any idea who that is?
Oh no, she's somebody.
That is Phyla Vell, one of the Guardians from the comics.
Oh,
a Kree Titan hybrid in the comics. I mean, it seems like it's a different origin in the MCU, but Phyla Vell, like the energy around her hands made me realize. I was like, oh, okay, yep, they're definitely going that way. And then Rocket was like,
cool.
Or Rocket said something about Phyla. I'm like, that's got to be. So yeah, some nice ties back to the comics with that one, and it's
I love the comic accurate suits that we got.
Yeah,
finally.
Yep.
Yeah,
it took a while, but whatever.
What's that?
I said it took a while, but we got there.
Yeah, we got there. I also love that Peter Quill did not use his mask at all. I mean, I know that's like comic accurate, but
or his boots,
or his rocket boots. Yep. I have gotten. What's that? I
said he could have used them.
You're right. Yeah. Although it was cool when he did that. He used like the pressure from that wire that he pulled at the end.
Oh,
he held it until it was time to like give him a little boost. I thought that was really cool. That was like, why is he holding that? Why is he holding that? Why is he? Oh, perfect. Okay, great. What was I just gonna say about what we were just talking about? The rocket boots and the helmet. I've gotten increasingly tired in Marvel movies, but also just kind of like, I mean, Marvel movies use it all the time, but other superhero and sci-fi movies have adapted it too, where like a character just pushes a non-existent button behind their ear, and then an entire mask of nanobots or whatever just goes and covers their whole face. Like,
right.
I don't just take a helmet off, man. I don't know, just take your mask off. Like, I don't need Spider-Man to just do with net. Just pull it off. Like,
well,
that's
it's
part
one
of
thing
it for me, you know.
It's one thing for Spider-Man, but like for Quill, it kind of make like Space Dude.
You're right.
Okay,
well,
cool.
Quill is the first one I remember them doing that with.
Right.
And I appreciate it because I was like, oh, this is like space technology. I can forgive this. Great. But like when it starts happening with like Captain America or whoever else,
right.
You know, even like Iron Man, I get it, but still, like, I'd rather see like a shield go up, like faceplate up on his face or something, you know.
But yeah, you're right. Like the Iron Spider suit didn't need to be nanobots, and
yeah, exactly. So, I like that he just didn't have it at all. I guess I was like, oh, cool. And you get to see his face. But
I mean, he was probably hammered and forgot it when they took off.
You're right. Maybe so. Yeah, because they took off in haste. You're right. Yeah. So yeah, I think we touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. I think, we got at the end that the legendary Star-Lord will return.
Yep. So if anyone
and
saw
so
that and didn't get the reference, the legendary Star-Lord is a one. It's a Quill-centric run of comics. There's at least 3 volumes. I can't remember who wrote it.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a standalone book for him. I haven't read any of it, but I think it's pretty fairly well regarded.
Oh, interesting. All right.
So
So, I mean, as far as who's going to come back and who's not, we know Dave Bautista said he's done, which is interesting because they kind of just left him at nowhere, which is like a place that I feel like we could easily go to again.
yeah,
For any reason. So interesting. He just won't be there, I guess. But I guess Chris Pratt as Star-Lord is the only one that's confirmed to come back as of right now.
Now that I'm thinking about that, Legendary Star-Lord was a 2015 run from Sam Humphries, art by Paco Medina. So yeah.
Sam Humphries is a great writer. I like him.
Well, he might be the, impetus for more Star-Lord centric ideas here.
Awesome. There were a few times during this movie, as I was enjoying it very much, that I got a little extra kick of enjoyment thinking the guy that made this movie is making Superman. It's like that's
awesome. That's where I still can't get my brain around it, is like the general feeling and vibe of this movie and any James Gunn movie. This is also part of why I have the hesitations about Taika doing Star Wars.
Right.
Is like I can't wrap my head around a James Gunn feeling Superman movie.
This movie actually kind of helped me a little bit more.
Yeah, I can
feel
see
it because a lot of people, I mean, if you haven't read a bunch of Superman, you might not realize that there's some weird shit in Superman. Superman is an alien. He interacts with other aliens all the time. He has a collection of like last of their species plants and animals in his Fortress of Solitude. So there's like potential for some weird shit to be seen in a Superman movie. If he has to go into outer space to like save an alien race, he has to do that all the time. So like, I could easily see some weird, hands in goo type kind of scenes or giant tentacle monster kind of scenes.
But at the same time, for me, it's not even the weird and the wild. It's like James Gunn is notorious for writing in his comic relief, and where are you getting that outside of like Jimmy Olsen?
Well, do you need it outside of Jimmy Olsen?
I mean, if you're not going to be on Earth and hanging out at the Daily Planet, then probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see. But like,
or rather, we don't need it. But I feel like every Gunn movie I've ever seen, that's been like the cornerstone of it. Is yes, it's weird, it's kind of funky, but it's also grounded in. There's this through line of keeping you there with a good story and the humor to offset it, like serious story with the humor.
Yeah,
to balance.
I don't know. I'm sure he can.
I'm sure he will.
No, it's not like Clark Kent isn't allowed to crack a joke. You know what I mean? Like he can be funny also. And if you're gonna do a Lex Luthor, he can be like viciously funny or quippy or something. Like villainously funny. Lois can be a really like snarky and funny character as well. So I don't know. I think there's enough there. And like, look at how he wrote Rocket in this movie. Like, Rocket's not funny in this movie, really. He may have a couple funny lines in the second half, but
well, I mean, most of the first half he was just on a board.
Yeah. But in those, like his whole
even the flashbacks and that
his whole story arc, it's when
how heartbreaking was it that the first word that he uttered was hurt?
Oh yes,
I was just like, oh god,
yeah,
just raw.
Oh, I know. And then when he saved the little babies at the end and they all crawled onto his back because raccoons carry their babies on their back, I was like, this is adorable.
Oh, God. What was the song that was playing during that? Because, again, it was absolutely perfect.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great needle drops.
Yeah.
At the end, I was like, I hadn't heard that the Dog Days Are Over song in a long time. So when it started, I was like, sounds familiar, and I literally thought it sounds like that Florence and the Machine song. And I was like, oh, it is.
That's why.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Apparently, he confirmed on Twitter that was he had been thinking for a long time that was going to be the end needle drop.
It was great.
So it definitely fit nice.
Yeah.
Was it
like some?
Where did they drop in the meantime? Because that was another one where I was just sitting there like
when they were when they jumped in their
in the Teletubby suits there.
Yeah. That was really good. That was great.
That was great.
It was a good placement. Yeah. Oh, all right. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 2 thumbs up from the Multiverse Report, for sure. It's doing very well at the box office. It's made just under $300 million in its first weekend, I believe.
Yep, not a bad opening. I had just pulled those up and then closed them.
Yeah, will be interesting to see if it falls off. If it has better legs than what was the last one, Ant-Man, that had the huge drop off, right?
Yeah, this one feels like. It feels like it'll hold comparatively.
Yeah.
100
honestly, I think it's
120 or 120 million or 114 million domestic and 282 global.
So worldwide 282. Yeah, that's what I see too. Awesome. Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say, but it doesn't matter. And so stick around if you liked this and you want to hear us talk more nerdy stuff. We're doing our weekly Nerd News recap episode right after this if you're watching on YouTube. So keep watching. If you're watching later, then just go to the next video and you'll hear our weekly recap. If you're listening, just go to the next episode in your podcast feed or the one before this one. I don't know. Maybe you already listened to it. Who knows? There's also, if you want to hear us talk about Star Wars, there's a 2.5-hour episode that we did last week for May the 4th, where we rank our favorite Star Wars films. That was a lot of fun to do. Definitely the longest episode we've ever done. Second only to a 2-hour one that was also about Star Wars.
There's a recurring theme here. If you want us to talk for a long time, apparently it's going to be about Star Wars.
Ask us about Star Wars. But other than that, I think that is it. So just like what Steve said to all the people that did not want spoilers early on in this episode, you can like this video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to us on your podcast, whatever app that you're listening to us on. Contact us.
The podcast machine.
The podcast machine. Sure. Yeah, Multiverse Report on social, Multiverse RPT on Twitter. multiversereport@gmail.com, multiversereport.com, all that kind of stuff. Like and subscribe, and we like this movie, and that's all. You got anything else to say, Steve? I did your stuff.
No, it seems fine. You did great, Mike.
All right, cool. Thanks, buddy. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.